We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
You know I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. It's education and politicians. No one's willing to step up and speak.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at paceradio.net. Tonight, I am joined by my joint host, Julie Chiariello, and she has a special guest who is spreading the love of cannabis education, plus so much more, and the list goes on. Believe me, it doesn't end. But first, as always, a quick catch up with Julie, and then we'll get our guest into the show as we're just running a few minutes late. Well, Julie, how you been the last 2 weeks?
Oh man, it's been pretty nuts, as always. It's a wild ride at all times, Al.
Yes.
And this is no different, but we got the summer issue out, and I'm very proud of it. Actually, we have Supernova Women on the cover, women of color in cannabis, and our guest tonight actually is one of the women that is an important part of that organization. And I'm very proud of this issue, actually, because I keep making changes, Al. It's definitely the new era of skunk, and I keep on focusing on strengthening the magazine and really also giving representation, consistent representation to Black community, Latino community, Native community, and the Asian community, and also the LGBTQ community that have not really been as visible or able to get access or participate in the industry as easily. So this was a huge issue, and it's something that, it's not just a one-time issue or one-time article. This is about what we're going to be doing consistently, and we're going to keep on hitting new milestones as we go. And so, yeah, that's been my big work with preparing the summer issue, and now that that's off and it's going to hit the streets this week, I'm beginning to prepare for fall, and I'm really excited now because if you love Woodstock, we have Santana. I got the agreement that Santana would appear on the fall cover.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
So this is a very exciting moment. I've loved Santana's music for decades.
Oh,
I know so many people do.
I can hear the guitar. Oh, yes. You don't even have to hit the play button, and you can hear it. And as far as the latest issue of Skunk, the stuff that you talk about here on the broadcast, it's great to see that not only you talk about it, but you're putting it in print and helping get that knowledge out there to your readers on the diversity and inclusion, equality, as well as the benefits of cannabis.
No, absolutely. I am a woman of action. I don't want to be just a woman of words. Our words hold power, but they hold power when we match them with our actions and we walk our talk. And man, there's a lot of work to do. And that's definitely how I'm super excited to talk with our guest tonight, because talk about a powerhouse. Nina Parks is our guest tonight, and she is a total powerhouse of a woman, so activated, and I don't know how she gets all the things done that she gets done. And I just, I'm so honored to have her on tonight. And if it's all right with you, Al, I want to read a little bit about what she has done before we bring her on to let people know.
Sounds good to me. Let's do it.
Okay. Yeah. Nina Parks has been working in the regulated cannabis industry for over 5 years, specializing in sourcing great cannabis from small farmers, curating and innovating with rich cultural experiences in cannabis and disrupting the status quo, to driving conversations about healing from America's failed war on drugs. She started off as a delivery service operator for 3 years, but had to pivot her focus as her family and community began to be regulated out of the legal market. Since then, she has focused on helping to advise and create the Cannabis Social Equity Program in San Francisco and give guidance and vision to businesses that want to factor in equity, diversity, and inclusion into their business plans. In her short time in the regulated cannabis industry, she has helped to co-found several organizations and businesses, Mirage Medicinal, Supernova Women, the Original Equity Group, and she has also sat on the board of the California Growers Association, heading up their advocacy and strategy around delivery services, and helped to co-found the California Cannabis Delivery Alliance. She is also the owner and CEO of Gift of Doja, a company where she curates small batch cannabis grown by farmers from all over California who choose to cultivate the plant with love and intention. Welcome,
Wow.
Nina Parks. Thank you so much for coming on the show with us tonight. Such an honor.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and for such a stellar cover one, and all the thought that you put in to really highlighting the work of the organization, as well as like a really phenomenal intro where I didn't feel too overwhelmed by all the ands. You know, I have a tattoo on my arm of an ampersand, because that's kind of how life is. It's just like one after another, right? So.
Yeah, you keep adding on. I know, because you just that's what I mean. I mean, I've really been impressed in the short time that I've known you, of just how much you really, how much heart, how much passion, and how much you do get done. And so, yeah, I so excited to, walk people through maybe a little bit more of your story, Nina, and just spend some time with you. And I wanted to start really about, when was the first time you used cannabis? When did it first come into your sphere? What was going on at the time, and what happened for you?
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with first time cannabis came into my sphere was in the 90s. I was probably like coming out of elementary school. One of our friends, like their family was a combat veteran, and definitely used cannabis. Like we would walk into their house and it, the place would smell like paint because they were artists and cannabis smoke, and it was never portrayed like in that environment. It wasn't portrayed as a thing of like criminal behavior, but really like a piece of the culture, right? And then I had, an uncle, like two uncles actually, that were very, involved in the LGBTQ community, because as Filipino men, they found a lot of freedom being able to be in San Francisco. But unfortunately, during that time period was like the height of the AIDS epidemic, and they did have friends that were severely suffering from HIV. And we saw them bring brownies. We saw them bring bags of weed and like be able to enhance the time that they had with their friends, So those were the places where it was introduced to me, and I started to develop a consciousness around it. Obviously, like it was crazy. I remember being in elementary school and mentioning that like like my friend, like my friend's father has like joints, like rolled up and put aside in a little pouch or something, and somebody overheard me and told the principal. And I remember called into the office and being like, are you around drugs? I was like, oh my God, like, why is it an issue?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the first use of it, I was probably like 14 years old. And I remember like taking a bong rip at like in the garage of a friend of mine, and not knowing, and like of course like with teenage friends, like they're not kind about it. They're just like keep filling it up, and then you have to clear the whole chamber in one breath. And I
Totally.
remember just like
All the
myself
pressure.
and like throwing up on their on their driveway, and distinctly being like, not necessarily. Which is cool because I don't think at that time period my endocannabinoid system was like in need of it at all. So my body didn't crave it. It wasn't a thing, that I was searching for or anything. But in like the 2000s, like 2005, I had taken a trip to, like I had taken a study abroad program at City College of San Francisco. And I was able to go to Paris and live there for 6 months. And like part of that was because I was having a lot of trouble coping with some violent deaths of friends here in San Francisco. And I just couldn't focus in regular school. And if I was going to pay to be in school anyways, my dad suggested actually that maybe I should look into a study abroad program and at least try to get some distance, like from the environment in which I was kind of losing it in,
Wow.
And then I was able
That's
to
awesome.
go to Amsterdam with a cousin of mine, Rocky Rivera, and my brother, Malcolm Mirage, and we all have very epic names in our family. All of us are artists.
I love it. Total meant for the stage or an author, a published author.
But we took this trip to
Totally.
Amsterdam, and it was incredible because, one, Amsterdam's drug laws, right? And like during the time period, I was so fascinated with the criminal justice system because I had seen in America how the criminal justice system was a tool of oppression. During the 90s, San Francisco, 80s and 90s in San Francisco, young folks, it was easy for young folks to get politicized because there was so much happening, everything from, Proposition 21, which was a gang violence prevention, juvenile justice initiative, to Driving While Black. Like during that time, that was the time period that I was growing up in. And then also coming on the heels of Brown Berets and Black Panthers and like all these really rich histories of community members stepping up and taking ownership for the safety of their own communities, and then seeing what the juxtaposition was. Amsterdam was testing small batches of recreational or adult use drugs to make sure that, humans that were making conscious decisions to partake were not taking something that could potentially be completely poisonous to them, which was such a different way to approach substance use. So because actually I had witnessed and also experienced a bunch of like violence and some severe painful traumas, I think my endocannabinoid system was just in a different place. Like I was having trouble experiencing happiness and like bliss. And I could see, like now doing the studies about how anandamide production starts to reduce if you had chronic pain or some chronic traumas. I'm looking back, I'm like, whoa, like my body was kind of craving it. And thank God I was in an environment that was safe. And that was 2005.
Yes, completely. I was there in 1998, and it blew me away as well. I mean, that changed my life, and I was there in 98, and it was just totally revelational, and it was before really 215 took hold, which later became, with Dennis Perron, the energy of compassion, the fact that it was called the Compassionate Care Act. But yeah, that is phenomenal that you found yourself there with your family in a safe place to imbibe. And so then what happened at that time? Like, how was it different? Because first of all, Amsterdam is so beautiful. For those who haven't been, who are listening in, hopefully you get to go and it's on your bucket list, because it's not just about the cannabis. It's about just the beauty of the city and the culture, and how everybody has floral arrangements in their windows, and everybody has a sense of aesthetic a sense of aesthetics and beauty and arts and music and culture, didn't you find? So what was it like when it this time around?
Right. It was definitely an eye-opening experience to see a culture that centered life over production. You know, just, and I say that in the meaning,
Yes,
I mean,
well
only
said.
because, right, they blocked out time for siestas, like everything shut down during certain time periods, right? Like it highlighted this need social with one's family, you know, and I remember actually being out there and most of the Europeans and just kind of being like, you Americans have no culture. I was like, what the? We got culture. It's called hip hop. Like, they were just like, they're like, I'm like, that's not a culture. I was like, arguably it is a culture, but you know, we could talk about all, you know, like that's a whole different conversation. But coming back home, it was just not that accessible, and it was still, you know, it's been criminalized. It's still being criminalized right now. We're barely, you know, like we're barely starting to shake it off right now, you know. So,
with a boot on our neck, you know, and yeah. I apologize. There seems to be a little bit of a delay. I'm sorry. There seems to be a little bit of a delay, so I apologize in advance because I'm not meaning to sound like I'm cutting in on what you're saying, dear. I just want you to know that.
No worries
Technology.
Technology, that's right, yeah.
Okay.
It happens.
Especially right. So, I mean, one of the
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and then, you know, in 2014, you know, like, because coming back from that, it really actually lit a fire under my brother, and he's the one who really started to push forth with, like, knowing how important it was to build a brand and how important it was to build a narrative, and he put together a website, you know, like he put together like all of these things, and unfortunately he was incarcerated in New York for the possession and intent to sell, and ended up getting a year at Rikers Island. And for me, I was, you know, I had been working in a nonprofit and experienced some like crazy ass shit where SFPD, particularly Ingleside Station, released this program called PERF. I can't necessarily remember what the acronym stands for, but you guys can look it up on Google. It's like San Francisco SFPD PERF program. It was like an assessment tool or whatever for them to be able to see whether or not, you know, like their policing strategies were effective or whatever. They weren't effective. So they put these beat officers on the street, and they were sent in to interact with our youth center because we had a high volume of Black and brown youth that were at our center. And they were constantly getting complaints about the kids smoking weed and all these other things. But, like, at the center, we're literally addressing young folks that have witnessed murders in front of their house, that have been molested, that have, you know, like that are, you know, experiencing housing discrepancies and are having a difficult time staying focused in school because they don't have a stable environment. And for the police to say that our facility or like our teen center was like Safeway or the corner store and they can treat it any way that they wanted to, was a real slap in the face and was compounding traumas. And it was making it very hard for these young folks to anywhere, you know. And so I was like that work, actually, I was in it for 6 years. And I regret, you know, like it took me a long time, you know, to decide to walk away from it, but I had no choice because my nervous system really started shutting down and like my back started going out. I mean, my eyes started swelling up on me. I was getting sick on a regular basis. Just having to like constantly interact with SFPD in a way that, you know, like didn't feel good. Like we had created a new ordinance. We had run we had run these summits where it was organized by young folks and the police officers. Police officers were not allowed to be in any position where they were talking at the students in any way. They had to be equally like at the table with them. If it was facilitated, it would be co-facilitated, or they were in the audience, because it was supposed to be a way for them to learn and for us to be able to kind of turn the power dynamics on their head. But like I was in this in-between stage, like recovering from that experience, really trying to dig deep into my photography and storytelling through art. And it was at that time that my brother was arrested. And so because I was so entrenched and knew what kind of horrors the criminal justice system would have in store if we didn't start fighting, I told my brother that he was not going to miss out on the opportunity and that I would launch his business, which is Mirage Medicinal, and get it off the ground while he was locked up. But when Prop 64 rolled out, there was actually language in there that said that he couldn't own his business. And that's when at least my fight started in going back to the legislative spaces to talk to our leaders and being like, how can this language exist, considering what, like who has been criminalized for this? Like, how can you stop people from selling weed for selling weed? Like, the hypocrisy was just so blatant. Exactly. And like the community at large that was coming to the meetings were like, yeah, that sounds real fucking stupid. And it's kind of, the other thing is that there weren't many women in the space at these meetings. There weren't many Black and brown folks in the space, even though we know that the business was the traditional business was very heavy Black and brown, and also the incarceration was hella Black and brown. The people that were in the legislative spaces and in the industry space were not representative of that. And that's when Supernova was born. Like, I saw Amber and I saw Sunshine and I saw Andrea, like, on their own reconnaissance, just showing up, making the effort, showing up there. And so we decided to start showing up together, and that's when Supernova was born.
And it was definitely a supernova moment. And that's what, for everyone listening in, you could definitely learn more about Supernova and the current issue of Skunk, because it's just such an incredible story, It really is. And it's so amazing because I met Amber on her first night in California, and we tell that story of just Amber coming and definitely just being a powerhouse of a visionary, such an incredible entrepreneur. And what you guys did was so needed, because exactly right what you said, it's 81% of CEOs and owners in the industry are white males, and it is an insult. It is an insult, and it is completely wrong how whitewashed it is and how racist it is. And so we've got, a lot of cleaning up to do. So that's where you got activated, and that's an incredible story. Like, what happened to your brother, and where is your brother now? I mean, it's just, that's so heartbreaking what he had to endure.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, please.
Can we go to break before you get into the story, and then we'll come back and we get right into that for a length of time?
Yes, we can.
Alrighty, sounds good.
I knew the time was going to fly with Nina.
Oh yes. All right, it's off to break. When we get back, Julie and Nina and I will continue this conversation with our guest, Nina Parks. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at paceradio.net.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
BMA Hydroponics has everything you need to succeed. Visit our hydroponics superstore at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville, and we'll show you how to grow your own quality cannabis for pennies per gram. We're open Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Thursdays and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Call 613-967-9888. BMA Hydroponics. It's worth the drive.
The only way to go.
CT CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CTCP.
Are you interested in Canadian and international cannabis news? If you are, then catch myself, Kim Cooper, and Al Graham for our live reefer report on the Pace Radio Network, found at paceradio.net.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
The People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada is an organization working to improve cannabis legalization in Canada. They have a mission and values that includes all Canadians, no matter where they come from. The values are including everyone, as no one should be excluded from participating, equality, diversity, advocacy, along with cannabis education and research, plus industry, safety, and professional standards. If this is an organization that has the same values as you, check them out at peoplesallianceofcannabisincanada.ca. Once again, peoplesallianceofcannabisincanada.ca. Check them out.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. Hey, we're back and welcome to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at paceradio.net. Tonight on the program we're joined by our guest Nina Parks of Gift of Doja, plus our joint host Skunk Magazine co-owner and editor Julie Chiariello. I believe we've got both the ladies with us right now because we happened to both of them dropped during the break, didn't you, ladies?
Yes, we are in Mercury retrograde. Or I saw a meme this week about fucking Mercury lemonade. It was hilarious, but we're just coming out of it, so we're feeling it, feeling the heat.
Very good. Well, I'm glad that we were able to have that happen during break, and nobody would know any difference. So you just asked Nina a question, and when I jumped in. So let's get back to that point.
Yeah, how is your bro? And tell us a little bit, if you would.
Yeah, my brother is good. You know, like my brother is doing well. Like he is now out. He, you know, like he was a year. He went in 2015. He got out in 2016. And it was just definitely a crazy time period. And during that time also, my dad had also gotten arrested. Like, it's Father's Day, so I might as well mention my dad's story. I mean, you know, Father's Day just passed, so I might as well mention my father's story as well. He had gotten arrested in Washington Heights, and that was crazy because everything was, like, on the news, and it was just a bananas time period, you know, that I'm still kind of processing through. Like, I lost my father in 2017, and, you know, like, he was so instrumental in helping at least me understand, like, the structure of business as a whole, because I've always been a creative. So that journey was a little bit crazy. But my brother, though, he has a dispensary. He has dispensary licenses in for San Francisco. The licensing process for San Francisco is probably one of the worst, aside from Los Angeles. It's just about like the department's kind of not doing their job across boards, because it's not just cannabis businesses. Even a man tried to open up an ice cream shop in the Mission District. He spent over $150,000 on rent, and the department just didn't get to him. So imagine what that is. What that is for individuals that, one, were required to have to be of low income, and then two, to be part of this equity program, and they were promised a level of priority processing. And we've seen some businesses get open, but a lot of those businesses already have operations in like many other cities. And we saw them get opened up before, some of the more organic equity applicants. So he's on his journey. I've been sitting on the Cannabis Oversight Committee for San Francisco and chaired that, trying to get more transparency about how the city is approaching cannabis equity work, which has been a really amazing experience, actually, because, it is an entire department and an entire strategy of economic revitalization and restorative justice that is supposed to be based on racial equity, diversity, and inclusion thought processes and frameworks, Can
you tell more about it? Because I feel like the work that you're doing and why I'm so happy that you're on the show is to be able to talk a little bit, because you're such a wealth of knowledge because of this work, because you've put your heart and soul into it, to help people understand what are the variables on the table, what has been promised, what's actually happening, and what are we working towards. I know that's a lot, but I wanted you to kind of share this journey and the structure of it. Would you mind?
Yeah, I definitely want to paint like a picture of the landscape too, and like people that live through it, obviously, in like here in the Bay Area, obviously know. During 2015, there was a lot of civil unrest, like much in the same way that people are responsive to, the killing of George Floyd. There were a number of shootings in, around the country. Mike Brown being one of them, and like spark of Black Lives Matter. We had, here in San Francisco, we had, our activists and community members literally hunger striking for over 17 days in front of a police station. The young folks were coming out in droves, through this, under the banner of Frisco 500, taking over City Hall and really trying to highlight the inequities, of just police interaction, period. So that was what was going on outside of the halls, along with the conversation of legalization. And then at the Board of Education, there was conversations about the discrepancy of expulsion and what is it called? And suspension for brown and black students. So seeing that.
Oh my gosh, it's horrible. They roped them in at that time into the penitentiary system. It's a system of racism, and it's sick.
And that's why San Francisco very specifically is the only place that has, if you went to San Francisco Unified Schools District, as one of the qualifiers, because there was data to show the inequity of expulsion and suspension, and we, so because all of these things were happening, it made the conversations inside of the halls a lot more, people were more receptive to it, because no one knew what to do, right? How do we even address it? And it's not like these equity programs are the answer. like, or the only answer, or like, this is it. It's like, this was the start to finding.
You got to start somewhere.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You know, it was a start to finding another way, because we have, you know, like over 1,000 some odd people that have, like, are in the process of, you know, registering to become an equity applicant. And we know more people qualify that haven't, you know, like, that can't put together the documentation. Like, they don't have it because they actually were not, they have no proof that they were living somewhere because they weren't on a lease, so they didn't have any bills that went to somewhere, you know? And that, like, could qualify for the program, but who's to say that, like, cannabis licensing is the only way? You know what I mean? Like, it was definitely very, very important because we saw how gentrification was moving in the Bay Area, so there was a need to be able to put some level of visibility and prioritization that have suffered from you know, growing up with family members that have been incarcerated, or have been incarcerated themselves, and all the resources that get taken away in the process. So, like, you have a felony, you can't access the Pell Grant for higher education. You know, you can't be approved for traditional loans or, like, financial aid. You know,
they keep you locked in the system. Plus, the sentences are inequitable. They're not the same. The way that they lay this sentencing down, it's disgusting to me. The double standard.
Right, 5-year minimum. You know, like like 5-year minimum. You know, like for certain drug charges. You know, like, that are very draconian. You know, the idea at this point, though, like, when we're approaching the work, was really to start dismantling the language that codified racism. And, like, what happens if we started thinking with language that could be medicine, like policy that could be medicine for our community? You know, I've read Edgar Villanueva's book, Decolonizing Wealth, and his theory around money into medicine really got me thinking, like, what happens if we took that theory and, you know, applied it for other things that distribute power?
Ooh, you just gave me chills. You know, I'm always talking about a renaissance. That's what the Renaissance is us redefining what it means to be successful, what is wealth, and knowing that the ways that wealth has been defined have been sick, have been racist, that the white colonialist dominator ethic is over, and that we have to do the work of, as you said, a new vernacular and new ways of doing business, and new ways of working with our earthly resources. This is all interconnected. This is why this work is so important. And you're right, it's about creating a new vernacular and helping ourselves to be empowered, as you said. How do we transmute this low vibration energy of the failed war on drugs, the systemic racism? How do we transmute it and keep it going towards evolution, right? Human evolution.
And it's happening, right? Like, it is happening. Like, the fact, like, not everyone's getting it right, obviously. Like, it's a clusterfuck and it's a shit show because it's new for people.
It's fucking chaotic. It's birth. Birth is chaotic.
Yeah, but it's not not working. It is working, right? Like, it is working because the conversations are changing. The openness for dispensaries and other businesses to be more mindful about their diversity and their inclusion, and addressing like the culture, like the need to be culturally aware of certain things. Like, it's happening. It might be happening slowly, and again, we're fumbling through a lot of it, but it's way better than us being completely shut out of it, like they were going to do. So, like,
the evidence is there. Yeah.
Yeah, we're very aware that we're not close to having something that's, like, all the way working, but we are working on it, you know, collectively. Because, like, look at New York. Look what New York did. Look at how New York activists were just so fucking kick ass and so fierce, you know, especially because of how like, if anybody been out in New York, like, over the past, 20 years, like, like, how ridiculous, like, you couldn't, like, you had to hide.
You could stop on the street. If you even looked like any kind of stereotypical profile, you're getting fucked with.
I got girlfriends that sat in and did weekends, like a weekend in central booking, because there was no judge to go see them just for a joint.
It was disgusting, and I've heard people. I haven't gotten to go yet, but I've heard that it's just a trip to be walking around the city and smoking, and the cops don't give a fuck. They're just like, that's nice. It's a nice sunshiny day. Good morning. It's like, boom. How does something change like that? So I agree with you 100%. And also the pandemic and George Floyd and all of this shadow that's been building. I feel like, it's a universal law that the shadow and the light work together to birth new things. And we are dealing with massive shadow, but we're also dealing, I think, with massive births of light, of good, high-vibing energy that's going to help millions of us to get new things done. It's like the last Renaissance. I mean, it's a shake-up, right, that has happened. And look at how far Supernova's going, and so quickly. Look at how far you're going with Gift of Doja, and so quickly. And also the gains that are happening with you guys being able to fight back with the equity conversation, which I want to get into as well, just to educate anybody that's listening in that doesn't know what's going on in Sacramento. I wanted you to have a chance to speak to that and what we're fighting for within the so-called legalization framework that's still fraught with, just criminality and injustice and is not sufficient. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, okay, so there are no models of education right now that are being distributed all the way through our government, so like they're slowly picking up language. Like critical race theory and ethnic studies wasn't a common thing for their community, so like we're, like in Sacramento, also like in Sacramento, I'm representing the equity trade certification, which is a federally approved trade, like a seal that is showing up on a bunch of different products to help identify supply chains and as well as products that are part of the equity networks. But what's happening right now in Sacramento is that like we have a coalition of folks that are made up of some other powerhouses that you guys need to talk to. Some folks like Kika Keith from Gorilla RX in Los Angeles and Malachi, from California Urban Partnership. They've been really leading the charge to make sure that, one, within this new budget, because Gavin Newsom had delegated $100 million in this budget trailer bill to cannabis with no mention of social equity, but definitely like a greater conversation around like this need to transfer people over from provisional licenses into annual licenses and to continue like making the effort to legalize people and get people out of the just like out of the trenches of doing like business that they can be arrested for. You know what I mean? But yes. The regulatory process is so crazy. And the way that they rolled it out for everything is that, like in rolling out our program, like all the programs in legalization, they didn't really think about budgeting to make sure that it was staffed for the degree everybody needed to like move through all of these things, So like we have Senator Bradford, who has been our ultimate champion. Actually, Senator Bradford gets it. Like he understands, his office penned the California Equity Act, which was SB 1294 that set aside budget to help to help localities that adopted equity programs to get some funding in order to, like get people grants, loans, licensing, deferral fees, like a whole plethora technical assistance, like services and actual resources. However, like we have not seen a lot of movement on the local level. There's been a lot of red tape on the local level, and it's actually kind of disheartening and very sad to see the level of inefficiency in our public sector around economic development programs that are supposed to help, you know. And granted, we are coming out of a pandemic, but the thing is like they know how to communicate when it serves them, right? Like that's a part of like critical race theory is like when white folks see like a intersectionality because they, because whatever that thing is also benefits, like whatever that change is also benefits them as, like white business owners, like they'll push and move on because but use, like POC narratives to be able to do so without actually providing all of the, services that they're supposed to do to, that with the narrative that they use to push for the privilege, right?
Absolutely.
So we have a coalition of folks that are so educated and so gung-ho, and they, like they are amazing, and I'm so grateful. It's like also Hood Incubator, Lanice is at the table, Beyond Equity with Cheney is at the table. Like all folks that have put in so much work are really fighting to make sure that there is resources, like expanded resources, because there's more localities that are adopting, like equity language. So that means that, and that we're still defining exactly what that means. But as of right now, it means that you are part of you lived in a community that was like over policed, and you have arrest records, you know what I mean? Or like your family, like your immediate family has arrest records, not only from that area, but in San Francisco, it's very unique because it's not like if you had an arrest anywhere in the United States, just because we know that California provided like 80% of like the nation's cannabis. So like it was stupid for us to not address that reality and say, if you didn't leave home because our prices to live is so fucking expensive out here, you know what I mean, that forced you to have to go elsewhere to get enough money to be able to like feel like you're living with some level of financial ease. You know what I mean? Like we.
Oh yeah.
No.
Like what do we? Like when we're creating like what it is for civilist society, it doesn't help us to lie about what things really look like. So like we're trying to address those things by making sure that it allows for like people that have had those experiences can qualify. Like to be legal now, because we have people that are publicly traded on the stock market. We got, we got multi-state operators and international and like businessmen that are just like going gung-ho, like shipping out to the Czech Republic and Colombia and, like in Canada.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like all of that is happening.
The
like,
privilege is full and in effect, and it's in your face every day. The privilege, it's in your face. How you have these multimillionaires and these corporations and the horrible just kind of whitewashing and just the lack of care. It's like, who gives a fuck? I've got mine. And too bad, which I know we're heading to a break right now, but I do want to come back and I want to talk about what does allyship mean really in this industry right now, because I think everybody, if you're part of the cannabis global community, everybody is a part of this conversation, and that, we have to improve in so many different areas. And so what can people do? And I want to also give you a chance, Mina, to talk about what is the work coming up for Supernova, what is the work that you're doing with Gift of Doja. And I knew we were going to run out of time. I didn't even get to half of my questions. But I would love to have you on again, and maybe we could do this quarterly and give an update on what's going on the streets.
That would be great. That would be wonderful. That would be phenomenal. Yeah, I think it's important. Yeah.
I just wanted to touch on that corporation points that you're talking about there, Julie. It was just announced here recently that in Canada that one of our licensed producers or some of the former CEOs and people who ran a licensed producer here in Canada, they themselves have never been charged with anything underneath the Cannabis Act. The company itself, it was under suspension, its license was held up and stuff like that, but it's all been, reinstated. And it's just been announced that these guys have been charged with things for fraud and stuff under the trading and stocks and so on and so forth type laws, but they've never been charged with any Cannabis Act laws, even though they had illegal rooms and exported cannabis to other countries around the world. The
corruption with the licensed producer system. The licensed producer system is so corrupt. There's so much cronyism, and it's all white frat boys, for the most part, multi-millionaire, guys that don't care about anybody but themselves and how cool they think they are and how disruptive they are, And it's like, please, it's so disgusting. And I say, boycott Canopy Growth, boycott Aurora, boycott these corporations that are just really a blight on our industry and a blight on humanity. But Nina, I know if you had seen what I'd seen, you would just be so riled up about these horrible players in Canada because it's pretty bad.
We report on them twice a week.
But that's the case for anywhere legalization happens. Anywhere legalization happens, this is what I'm seeing. Is racism, corruption, cronyism, and so that's why I hope everybody listening is just like, see how we can get activated, and we're not waiting for the culture to be handed down to us. We need to write the culture.
Like at our end, we're seeing some of these bills that are coming before some of these states when they talk about equality and giving back to those communities that have been affected by the war on drugs. We don't even hear any of that here in Canada. None of it. But we hear about it from the different state legislators that are going on down there. But, the actions speaks louder than words.
One black dispensary owner in all of Canada.
Licensed producer, yeah. One craft. Yeah. All right, off to break we go. The other side, Julie and I will continue our conversation with our guest, Nina Parks. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at paceradio.net. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
The People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada is an organization working to improve cannabis legalization in Canada. They have a mission and values that includes all Canadians, no matter where they come from. The values are including everyone, as no one should be excluded from participating, equality, diversity, advocacy, along with cannabis education and research, plus industry, safety, and professional standards. If this is an organization that has the same values as you, check them out at peoplesallianceofcannabisincanada.ca. Once again, peoplesallianceofcannabisincanada.ca. Check them out.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
The People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network provides its listeners with news, information, and a place to be heard. This is done with a twice-weekly broadcast of the Reefer Reporters and by providing cannabis advocates a place to be heard through Cannabis and Coffee to Marijuana and the award-winning Pace Radio Show. Catch it all here at paceradio.net.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
What is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network? It's a network of people advocating cannabis education.
CTCP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CTCP.
Who has huge buds? You do. If you shop at BMA Hydroponics, attend one of BMA's educational seminars and learn the secrets of growing, harvesting, processing, and consuming quality cannabis and cannabis products. Learn how to make better extracts, edibles, and medicinal creams at prices you can afford. Visit BMA Hydroponics at 404 Maitland Drive, Belleville, or call 613-967-9888.
The only way to go.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net. Hey, welcome back, and thanks for tuning in to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at paceradio.net. And tonight on the show, I am joined by our guest, Nina Parks, the owner and CEO of Gift of Doja, and my joint host, Julie Chiariello, who is also the editor and co-owner of Skunk Magazine. You can find them at skunkmagazine.com. And Julie, we're into our last segment here on tonight's broadcast. And where are we going to now? Oh, Julie has dropped from the call, Nina and listeners, just so you know. But I am on it. Okay. I am on it. I am calling her. I'm calling her back.
No worries. Yeah.
Hey, it had to have, it did it during the first break, so,
I'm back.
I'm hoping that I can drop off soon, too, because I'm getting into a funky, patchy area, but I think we'll be okay.
All right, we'll cross our fingers.
I want to catch people up on. Then do you want to, if we're going to maybe lose you, why don't we jump into telling people a bit about Gift of Doja and what you have coming up with your brand and what you've been developing and where they can find you. And I also wanted you to share about anything else, too, that you're working on. But want to start there with Gift of Doja?
Yeah, so Gift of Doja is two things. One, it's a vibe style company, so like merchandise in regards to like hats, shirts, like things that are like representative of like cannabis culture, but in a different way that's not that is not on par with like the slacker stoner, very much highlighting the magic and the gift that is cannabis, like how it helps to not allow things to bother us as much, like we can be really high strung on something and like take a few hits and realize that actually this is not an argument that needs to be highlighted and your energy to be used for more creative purposes, like cultivating a better vibe and like bringing that into you. And I learned that from my journey with cannabis and like studying and being a steward of the plant, and then Gift of Doja flowers, which is a curation really and a partnership highlighting cultivators from all the different appellations. So, something that growing up, we used to always say like loyal to my soil, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cannabis soil is so important, you know, and it like took on a new meaning, right? And cannabis is a plant. It grows in dirt. It likes, you know, like it likes to draw up nutrients from spaces, and all the different regions in California were protected.
Yes.
Are protected.
Like Frenchie says, the taste of the place, terroir, the taste of the place. And it is. It's the taste of the soil and the sun and the moonlight and the mist and the dew, right? It's everything.
Yeah, and like the winds and, you know, like everything. And of course, like I love cultivators that also, you know, like try to also protect from some of the elements, because like I find that some, you know, like some folks that are like fully outdoor and have a lot of like highly pollinated, like other flowers and things, like sometimes draw in allergies from other people. So I like also working with cultivators that think about like being able to protect the plant and try to preserve like the integrity of what that plant is producing on its own, you know? So like really looking for folks that are, you know, like working on live soil, you know, working on thoughtful cultivation practices. So working with like sanctuary farms that's like in Nevada County. The farm is near the river. They are very thoughtful about their soil. They grow in like probably like now, because like last year was an 8-year living soil. Now it's probably like a 9-year living soil. So their flower is absolutely amazing. Right now I have a small batch of their lemon tree mat that's available. You can find it on Wave Delivery here in San Francisco. Also working with Redwood Remedies, which is an amazing family farm out there in Mendocino County. I have their More Cowbell, which they won they've won an Emerald Cup for, and then also their Black Mom, and picking up more. Like one of the first partnerships was with somebody that I worked with on the California Growers Association, or two people that I worked with on the California Growers Association, who was Casey at Happy Day Farms and Amber at Happy Day Farms, and they are just probably two of the most phenomenal people, and just like very aware of, you know, like their privilege, but also, you know, like growing up in a rural place, like their financial situation is, you know, like was much more like working class urban folks. You know what I'm saying? So they have have capacity for you know, like for a baseline of understanding, and are willing to do the work to be more like critically aware, which was crazy, because like when we were going up to visit their farm, there were like you know, like Trump parades of cars on the way up there, and like on overpass, and like literally going up to their farm, you know, up there, like going up the road to their farm, there were like Black Lives Matter like posts in the ground on the way up to their farm. So, you know, at least we knew, like I was going up there with Ramon Garcia, and we're like, well, we should probably follow the Black Lives Matter, you know, like signage, you know, like hopefully it's going to lead us away from all this other, you know, like blindly Trump supporting, like white supremacist dominate. Like I like how you use the dominating culture, because that's really what it is, you know, like it's a dominating versus a unifying culture, you know, like it actually thrives on to dominate and dismantle and to divide, right? So looking for more and more people that want to work together. Like that's what we need. That's how we're going to survive. Like we're not big corporations, and even the big corporations somehow figured out how they were going to work together with their vision. So if we want to survive as small business owners and as also like diverse business owners, like we need to work together. So
Casey writes for the magazine. He's a brother. He's a kindred brother, and he commented on the show as well when you were coming on. And you're exactly right. I mean, that's what it's all about. Is we need to keep clustering and synergizing like mycelial roots and follow her lead and keep getting those roots stronger. And that's where it is important that we reach out and we synergize with each other and we get stronger with and unified, as you said, because then the other system becomes obsolete, like Buckminster Fuller.
Oh, hang on there, people. We just hit the wrong button. We're working on it. Get him back in on the call. There, you're back. You're back. We're all back. There we go. I hit that. That was that. This time. We're all back. This time it was my fault.
I was saying that you don't get rid of the old by continuing to fight it. You get rid of it by building the new, and then you make the old obsolete. That's a Buckminster Fuller statement, and I've always loved his way of thinking. He's a forward thinker, but I feel like that's really what we're doing is we're building the new, and it's key that we succeed at business together. It's key that we synergize together, because then the other system becomes obsolete because it's not as good. It doesn't have the soul power, right? Just like your hat, higher than the haters.
Exactly. It does, and it doesn't feel good for people. There's so many people that are transferring over into the cannabis space from, from corporate environments, and that narrative is very blatant. It's like they experienced a lot of trauma and lack of inclusion and all sorts of things, and it felt gross to them, and so they're looking for another place. And people have to be reminded that you can't come in here trying to escape that and create that, right? Make room for the other folks that have been leadership out here and that have been creating the other way, and learn how to step back. Even in our youth programs, and I have to be reminded of this too. I'm human, but it's being able to step up and step back. When does us stepping up all the time become actually at detriment? You know what I mean? When does...
Well, thank you for saying that, because I feel and I think that that's really what my mission is, as an herbalist and a healer, in addition to being a businesswoman. I really want everybody to be encouraged through the use of cannabis and mushrooms and other entheogens and plant allies to wake up their consciousness so that they remember to cultivate their alignment with the universe, with creation, with God, with the earth, and that they are the earth. We are the earth. We're not anything other than the earth and the universe ourselves. And so when we're in alignment with that, then one of the wisdoms that comes through is that there is a time for everything under the sun. This is what the universe has taught us. This is what creation teaches us. This is what I've been vibing on this last month, which has been brutal with, if anybody's into star stuff, with the eclipses and everything that's been going down. It's been really about showing us our shadow and helping us to integrate the shadow with the light into our wholeness. And how can what I've been seeing is that you're right, Nina, all of us have to remember that we need the fallow season when our fields lay fallow and we can regenerate. We need the winter. We need then we can come into the spring and then, the fall, the letting go of things. There's so much wisdom in nature and in growing. And that's what I love about being around the farmers. I'm so busy with the magazine that I'm not cultivating my own garden right now. But being connected with the seasons, I think there's wisdom in remembering that. So I appreciate that you said that, because I think it's something that we all have to remember as we're doing this work. And since we haven't lost you yet, I do want to ask you, though, to please share in your own expression two things before we lose you. Is what does true allyship mean to you, and what are three things that you think could make the most impact for people that are listening in, if they could just look around themselves in their own immediate environment and say, here's 3 things that I could do that could potentially assist in writing a better narrative. So that's number 1. Mm-hmm. And then I'd love for you to also share what's coming up with Supernova and kind of what just happened with you coming back on the board as you were the original founders, one of the original founders. So those are the 2 things I was hoping that we could still touch on.
Awesome. Okay, so what does allyship mean? Okay, well, allyship means very different things to different groups. Hold on, I just found a parking space in San Francisco, so give me 1 second.
Grab it while you can.
Let go, I know. Everybody get a jam. Spark your joint.
It is, yeah, no, it is. So, yeah, I'm going to take all I can. So, allyship looks different to many different groups, right? In regards to cannabis social equity, it's becoming aware, right? You were talking about like a consciousness, a shift of consciousness, a shift of awareness. You know, like start practicing, like going into dispensaries and asking, you know, like what equity products they have on the shelves, what women's products do they have on the shelves, what, you know, like add your marginalized group that has been attacked by, you know, like by very draconian drug laws, you know, and if they have representation on shelves, right? Are they visible in the market? You know, what does your supply chain look like? You know, really practice
Great
consciousness,
question.
right?
Right.
Another one would be like read the book The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander, because she does an absolutely phenomenal job at being able to lay out, what are the constructs of the new codified racism through the war on drugs, right?
I am so happy. I swear that is my favorite book because I really understood that slavery never ended. As soon as the slaves were so-called released, then they had the police force, which was racist in its creation, which is why we have so many issues. The seed bears the fruit. It was racist from the very beginning when those cops first called themselves police, and it was about going after and entrapping the slaves again. And then now we have the new Jim Crow with the new drug war rather. So thank you for bringing that up. And that's required reading, I think, for everyone.
Yeah, it is required reading, and I think it is such a phenomenal model for something because she actually models how she had to fix her thinking and to become an ally, even though she is a woman of color, right? But she has a husband who's a prosecutor, right? And she's working as a lawyer, and like coming from these institutional spaces where she has to now dismantle her own thinking around it. And she
had to become a part of the racism, the systemic racism, because if you're a part of the system, then you're a part of the racism. And that's the ugly truth that everybody has to start to tell. And it makes people uncomfortable. But the first thing is to have people be uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I guess that's the other thing is get comfortable with being uncomfortable and know that that's part of the growth. And then also purchase equity trade products. Make sure it's a little green.
Those are
logo.
great.
You know, we have, you know, SF Roots, Kingston Royal, Peaks, you know, like Asian Pear. We have some really quality folks. Also, like Pat Lee just came on board as a queer woman of color. Actually Asian, queer Asian, like women. So like understanding that equity, you know, like it's a ginormous push that is going to also require everybody, all hands on deck. Like another thing is like I do encourage people to read the book. Decolonizing wealth. It's very crucial that, you know, like we really make room for indigenous leadership, right? And to include like folks that are thinking about the repair and how do we move forward from here. Because like you said, like fighting the old is going to deplete a lot of resources, but building the new is where we have to keep our focus on. And something that's beautiful in Edgar Villanueva's Decolonizing Wealth, he talks about like all my relations, you know, which is a very indigenous concept of like, and, you know, indigenous across the world, you know, like people know that we are interconnected to our, you know, like to our physical space, to our spiritual space, to our connectivity with other human beings, with other plants, with other, with the animals, like ecosystems, like we are all interconnected in different kind of ways. So something that he says, though, is that healing, right, is going to take everybody. Everybody's responsible for the healing, whether you did the harm or if you were the person that was harmed, because it cannot happen in a silo. It has to happen together. So be willing to come to the table, have hard conversations, and to like continue to do the work. That's it. Like, well, that's all we can do. Like when we've been suffering from like from people turning the other cheek, you know, in many different ways, you know, and it's just a very like it's an uncomfortable process, but it's a beautiful process, you know.
Yes.
Like that's it. That's all I
and
got.
And this is wisdom, and this is medicine. Oh, and that's all you need, because that is just beautiful, beautiful soul medicine right there. That is the medicine. The medicine is in turning and facing it all, the totality of it all, and just saying, okay, I'll pick up a shovel, I'll pick up a rake, I'll do whatever is needed or whatever's being asked of me in the present moment. And we're all being asked, every single one, like you said. And nobody is out of the loop. It's one organism.
Yeah, the last thing though is like also giving ourselves the grace, like you said, like everything that I said is intense. It is intense. You know, people are like, that's a lot of work. Yes, it's a lot of work. Yeah, it's weird and crazy and all, you know, like, and different from the norm. So give yourself grace to stumble through it, you know. Give yourself the grace also to like take time and sit in silence about it and try to figure out how you know, like what pieces you played in the puzzle, and allow yourself to grieve, you know, and to like go through the process and then get active, you know. So
yes, sister.
Yeah.
That balance, that sacred balance. And I think that is really the heart and soul of cannabis, is it's teaching us homeostasis. How can we cultivate homeostasis? How can we cultivate balance and give time for everything? And it's such good medicine and such good wisdom for this moment. And I so adore that you came and spent time with us. I know you're a busy lady. It's 6:30. Al, I think that we should call the evening and give a chance. Nina, if you could give a shout out to where people can find you and find all the different things that you're doing, if you could just shout that out.
Totally. So www.giftofdoja.com to find out more about Gift of Doja and the offerings and where to pick them up. At Nina_Parks on Instagram. That's follow the memes. And
I love your memes.
And like at Supernova, please follow the organization and all the phenomenal work. There's so much to that. I really would love for you guys to talk to Amber and to Raven about the phenomenal work they're doing in Oakland to really lock in one of the first, well, actually the first publicly funded, what is it called? Shared space manufacturing facilities to cultivate cannabis. They have done just groundbreaking work. So please do follow.
I'd love to have you all on. I've had Amber on the show before, but I'd love to have you all on. Maybe you and Raven and Amber could come on and we could all talk again, or just Amber and Raven, whatever you think. But definitely I want to bring them on, and especially to celebrate the cover, and then just celebrate Supernova. So I think that's a great idea.
Again, like when we were talking about like stepping up and stepping back, I think that would be something for me to step back on and really give Amber and Raven like their full attention of like what phenomenal like work they had been doing. So just again modeling behavior that we want to see, right? Like I don't need to take up that space. Like that's a conversation that should be highlighted truly for them, and I would be happy to come back to talk about all the other things. So many things.
No, we didn't talk about everything. And I will have you on again, and I will definitely follow up with Amber and Raven. I think it's an excellent suggestion. And is there anything else that you would like to shout out?
Oh, yeah, Equity Trade Certification. So at Equity Trade Certification, it's not super activated yet, but please start following it now, and then there will be more content to come.
All right, super.
That's great, and it's been wonderful. Please, if anybody wants to get activated, you'll definitely get inspired by the work that they're doing, and maybe you could take it back to your area. So,
exactly.
Thank you so much,
Julie. Have you got a shout out? Julie, you got a shout out?
I just wanted to everybody to just tune in to skunkmagazine.com. We have the summer issue coming out with Supernova on the cover. Nina Parks, the beautiful Nina Parks, is on the cover, along with all of her co-board members. And so definitely check that out. And definitely follow us on Instagram. And don't feel shy to reach out to me as well if you have an important story that you feel should be covered. You can find me at Julie Chiariello on Instagram and Facebook. So sending lots of love out to everybody who tuned in tonight with us. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Nina. So appreciate you, and I'm so excited for all the different things that are coming in the year ahead. And thank you, Al.
All right. Yes, thank you as well. And you're back. You're back next week, Julie. And you got one more week to go. For Kim on hold. I know, one more week. So you're back next week. So we'll talk to you then. Everybody, you can find the Pace Radio Network on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. Thank yous go out to our sponsors, Legacy420.com, BMAHydroponics.com, the Camelford Lifestyle Shop in downtown Camelford, as well as Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions at drbuckcts.com. And thank you to our guest, Nina Parks, the CEO and owner of Gift of Doja, and my joint host, Julie Chiariello, for being here tonight. Other than that, thank you to everybody and our listeners. Good night, and we'll talk to you all soon. Bye-bye. The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. Do you want to hear what patients and cannabis advocates have to say? If so, then catch the Pace Radio Show Wednesday nights here on paceradio.net.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.